Hello, Oasis. We'd like to talk to you today about some participants in our foster system. We have foster parents, adoptive parents, and guardian ad litems. And I've been a guardian ad litem for 12 years now, and it's a program that I love, and we wanted to share that with you today. First, I want to introduce the people who are going to talk with us today. So, Alan, would you go ahead and start and tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thank you, Angela. So my name is Arline Peña. I'm an attorney. I work for the Guardian Litem program. I'm based out of good old Bartow, Florida, near the courthouse, at least during normal days, not during pandemic days. So my role is to represent the statewide program, so our office in court, and basically litigate cases and review cases, that type of thing. My caseload goes anywhere from about 55 to about 95 cases. We have often multiple children per case, so it doesn't really affect how many children we have. My role is to really represent the guardians ad litem in court, which they're the volunteers, and they go and advocate for the best interests of the children. So, but yeah, that's pretty much my role. I kind of do the legal side of it.
Fantastic. Caroline, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Arline Mendez. I am a guardian ad litem here in Polk County. I have been volunteering in this role for about 2 years now.
All right, Robin and Brittany, would you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Robin Grimes. This is Brittany Roberts. We're foster parents for about 7 years.
Through Heartland for Children.
Through Heartland for Children, yep.
And Stetson and Bethany, would you all introduce yourselves? Stetson, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Stetson Glass, and my wife and I, Bethany, have 4 children, 2 sets of twins that you've probably seen running around the church if you've been there. And we've had them for 3.5 years, and we just finalized our adoption in, was it May?
Yep.
In May, and Alan was actually one of the attorneys on our case, so yeah.
All right, Bethany, would you go ahead and introduce yourself too, even though you're connected with Stetson?
Yeah, I'm Bethany Glass, and like he said, we've got actually 2 sets of twins. They're 10 months apart. They're a sibling group that we've had 3.5 years. So we've got 2 4-year-olds and 2 5-year-olds. So practically like quads spreading around our house at all times. So if you hear Power Rangers in the background, I apologize.
All right. Alan, would you tell us exactly what the Guardian ad litem program is and what its volunteers do?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Guardian ad litem program, it kind of arose out of a need to advocate for children. Children, especially when they're in what's called the dependency system. So it's basically the foster care system. That's generally when they've suffered from abuse or neglect, or they're at risk for doing so. Guardians ad litem, what we do is we advocate for their best interest, for basically their voice in court. What that looks like is that the volunteers, we also have child advocate managers, which are sort of hybrid social workers and hybrid volunteer coordinators. They go and visit the children once a month. They try to understand what their needs are. A lot of it's observe and report. We arose out of a local program with the court, where if you look at other states, sometimes they're called CASA, which is child or court-appointed staff advocate or that type of thing. But so in other states, if you've been there, they're called CASA. Sometimes Guardians ad litem are not like a state-funded agency, but a nonprofit. But we kind of arose in a way to just make sure the child has a voice in court. One thing that's kind of odd that I'm still wrestling with, I've been with the program for about a year and a half now, is that we don't represent the child directly. We represent what's called the child's best interest. So it's kind of like a paternalistic view. Also, we are guardians ad litem, and the ad litem is Latin for limited, which means that we do advocate for their beliefs or for their wishes and for their best interests in court, and we speak on their behalf. But we do not act on their behalf. We're not like a parent, whether a natural parent or adoptive parent. We don't go and take them to school or take them to the doctor or that type of thing. We just speak to the court on their behalf and file reports and try to make sure that their wishes are met. So yeah, that's kind of what a Guardian Litem does.
Fantastic. Caroline, would you share with us some of your experiences as a guardian ad litem?
Sure. Well, like Alan was saying, if this is something that you're interested in, the time commitment on your end as a volunteer is really not, it's very manageable. I work, I have 2 young kids, and it's really, you know, the time, it's not overwhelming. You can take more than one case, but I only have one case at a time. And really your main role is once a month you visit the home, you have to see the child, and then you follow up with the written report. The written report maybe will, you know, takes 10 minutes max. It's not super involved. You just report what you saw. And that's basically it. I would say that when I first started out, you know, it's encompassing all of Polk County. So my first couple of cases were pretty far. I think I was driving maybe 45 minutes one way, and it was getting a little, you know, when you don't have a whole lot of time to commit. A couple cases in, I realized you can even request your own zip code. So the next case that I got, I said, hey, listen, I really need my own zip code. And now my current case is literally 5 minutes away. So it's very manageable for me as a busy person to be able to just check in easily. And I also would want people who are interested in trying to become a guardian. I know people like have this like savior complex or whatever, but also it's like, you know, sometimes you're more likely to get a case that's with a relative caregiver than a foster family. I think foster families are much more receptive to the guardians, but a lot of times that you're really not. I don't think people should expect like that it's going to be, you're going to necessarily be well received all the time, or that you're going to be like wanted, because a lot of times you're probably not. It's almost like, you know, you're invading their privacy in a certain way, especially if they're with a family member who's not, you know, like, why are you here? Why are so many people parading through my home all the time? So I don't want people to have an expectation that it's just going to be like, you know, darn skip. Like, you have to have a lot of courage, and you have to have a lot of understanding that you're meeting someone at probably what's their rock bottom. I mean, I can't think of anything much worse than losing your kid. So like, you're meeting someone at their lowest. They're probably not worried about your feelings. So I don't think people should think like this is going to be necessarily a super happy experience all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to sound discouraging, but don't, maybe, you know.
My experience as a guardian. So I usually get someone, my last case was actually in my neighborhood, which was very convenient. I feel like every time that I report back to the court, that the judge and listens to me, even sometimes above the other people in the room, the other lawyers and case managers, because the judge knows that I have the interest, you know, the best interest of the child at heart, and I don't have any other, you know.
Sure, and I think what you'll find too is that a lot of cases as they go on, the caseworker changes frequently. And the people that are, it's like a revolving door, but the guardian ad litem is the constant and is consistent and shouldn't really change from that case. So you're there from the beginning, and so you kind of see all angles. And I did forget to mention, yes, you do report to court. It's usually average every 3 months, and it's usually quite quick. But your input is extremely valuable, and your input is heard by the judge. Absolutely. You might come across a case where you do attend court more frequently, but for the most part, I mean, it's every 3 months or so. So it's really not an overwhelming commitment if it's something that you're worried about time-wise.
Yeah, I found it to be very manageable, and something that I feel like I get actually so much more out of it. I feel like my impact is so much greater than the you know, little bit of time I spend each month doing it. Also, if you are interested in volunteering but can't go to court during the day, you can do your report, and they can send someone to the court for you. So don't let that be a hindrance to being a guardian.
Yeah, every volunteer is assigned to what's called a child advocate manager, or a CAM, and those are the full-time employees we have. So often volunteers, especially we have volunteers who these days they're, you know, retired, or they're elderly, and they, you know, they can't report to court, or they're traveling. The CAM will step in for that role. So.
Right. Robin and Brittany are foster parents, and they fostered over 40 children. And so I think Brittany maybe helping out one of those kids right now.
Yeah, he's a good little man.
But very good. Yeah, go ahead and let
I'm
us.
gonna fall for him to sit there and play
So
with.
can you all talk to us about your experience as a foster parent and in relationship to guardian ad litems? Can you kind of speak to both of those issues?
Well, I mean, as far as our experience as foster parents goes, we have been doing it for about 7 years now. We did have a break in care because of a DCF case that was opened on our home. But once that was closed, we were able to go ahead and restart back up with fostering children again. So we've seen the good and we've seen the bad. It can be a very tough situation to go through. And then other times, you know, it can be very smooth and everything can go the way that you want it to go. It really a lot of times just depends on who the case manager is that gets assigned to the child and what their belief is in the biological parents and how well they're doing and how well they stay in contact and monitor what the parents are doing. So we've had some really good ones and we've had some not so good ones. But as far as the relationship with the guardian ad litem's office goes, I don't think that I could say we've had a poor experience with the guardian ad litem's office.
No.
Most of the ones that we have experienced have been very well. They listen to us, they hear us out. They do go and speak on behalf of the children in court. There was only one time with one of the children that we had a lot of concerns about what was going on with the child's biological family when they would do overnight visits with them. And we tried to speak to the guardian ad litem about it, and she was receptive to it, and she was willing to speak about it at the hearings and the judicial reviews and everything like that. But unfortunately, one time when she did try to talk, her attorney cut her off and wouldn't let her speak and share the experiences that the child was having. So I think that negatively impacted that child's life and what that child ended up going through in her life, because she was reunified and then she was poorly taken care of once she was reunified. But for the most part, most of our kids have either gone home to their parents and the parents have done very well. And then, or they've been adopted out and it was sibling groups and they were adopted with their siblings. So, which we couldn't take all of them in, there were so many of them. So otherwise we would have, but you know, it's just, it can be tough. And I know people ask us all the time, how do you do that? How do you foster? I don't think I could do that because, you know, getting so attached to the kids and letting them go back home would be so difficult. And my answer is always, it absolutely can be difficult. It really can. But what makes it easier at the end of the day is when you build that bond with the biological parents and you see what the biological parents are doing, if you can help them and guide them and they turn it around and they change their life, then it makes it a lot easier to send those kids home, because sometimes you can still keep that relationship and see the kids, but even if you can't, you know that the parents are in a good place and the kids are going to be taken care of. No. It's those ones that when the parents don't want to get involved with you, they don't want to build that relationship with you, and you know things aren't going good, that's where the struggle comes in. And thankfully we haven't had too many of that. But those are the hard ones. Those are the hard times. But you know, it has its good and it has its bad.
Yeah. Right. Bethany, can you talk to us a little about your experience first, getting your kids who you fostered for a few years and now just recently finalized your adoption?
Yeah, so we actually were a unique situation because the biological mother of our kids, she kind of experienced homelessness. She was actually a product of the system. And so she ended up aging out of the system and then going back with her biological mother who was addicted to meth. And she then herself also suffered from addiction and prostitution. And she ended up getting pregnant with twins. And hold on one second, buddy. And so then she ended up getting pregnant again, right back to back. And there was a woman at our church at the time who would end up bringing her. And so, hold on one second. They're all coming out at one time now. Okay. And so, anyways, we ended up there was a couple from the church that gave the caseworker our information, because from the time that we met these children, we just loved them, and we saw them on a Sunday basis, weekly. And so we took them right away, and they became ours instantly. But the Guardian ad litem was huge for our case, because you have the caseworker, and right off the bat, 9 times out of 10, 9.9 times out of 10, the goal of the case is always reunification with the parents, rightfully so, understandably. In this case, we had very, very large concerns over the idea of whether that would be possible, as much as you can pray that they do right their behaviors and they get the counseling they need and the therapies that they need. We weren't sure if that really would happen or not. But regardless, the caseworker's job is to make sure that she maintains that reunification mindset. And the Guardian ad litem was the one who really heard us, and then heard the kids and their experiences from their visits with their bio parents. And she ended up being huge when we would go to our judicial reviews every 3 months, like Caroline had mentioned, and was that voice for us. The state has the paid caseworkers, but we have the volunteers, and that's who we really cling on to. So, I mean, it's vital for our case and getting it closed eventually. So, we couldn't be more thankful for the Guardian ad litem program.
And Stetson, can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, I would say, so just to kind of echo what Bethany said, I won't kind of retell the whole story, but I would say that there were a lot of things that happened with the bio parents that just were very indicative of that nothing was changing, that there wasn't really a path towards a healthy change in lifestyle or transformation that could lead to reunification. But we probably had, babe, would you say we had like 6 or 7 caseworkers throughout the total time? And the majority of them would kind of like hide or suppress information from the court or the judicial review. And a lot of times we would look at each other, we would say, why didn't they bring this up? Why didn't they bring this up? And it was very frustrating, but then our Guardian ad litem would speak up and the information would come out. And so, yeah, I would say that Guardian ad litems are crucial to the full narrative being played out in front of those who are not involved on an active daily basis. We saw the Guardian ad litem more than we saw the caseworker. The kids saw the Guardian ad litem more than they saw the caseworker. So as a result, the Guardian ad litem was crucial, was present. The kids know her. She drops presents off for birthdays and Christmas. And so, yeah, I would say she was instrumental in everything.
Very nice. On a personal note, I get very close to my kids and I usually do one case. I've done up to 3 at a time. I get very close to the children. You love these kids. So much so that my own children, I actually started as their guardian. And then when they were taken from their home, I called Robbie and said, hey, there's these 2 little girls that need a place. So we then fostered in. Our adoption went through in 2018. So your impact is huge. Your heart grows bigger. It's been a great experience for me being a guardian. Alan, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Yes, I'm sorry, my mouse cursor disappeared there. Yeah, everyone, or they mentioned things about reunification and caseworkers. So one of the things I've noticed in working for the Guardian ad litem program is we all have like really good intentions. A lot of people have really good work ethic. There are some case managers that are fantastic and some that are not. I would say it's kind of like any other office. Most of our cams are fantastic. I say most, but and volunteers as well. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like the Guardian ad litem, what we're working in the dependency system, we're working on issues kind of downstream, and a lot of the issues that the parents are dealing with are issues arising out of poverty, and a lot of issues coming out of meth use is very, very common in Polk County. untreated mental health issues, all those type of things, homelessness. So part of our role, and especially as on the legal side, we have to make sure that the parents have due process. One of the fundamental rights when you are parenting, that's a fundamental right. It's just up there with like free speech and protection against search and seizure, all those Bill of Rights. I mean, it's not one of the ones that's enumerated, but it's very, very important, and that's why the whole system is set up. And it can be frustrating because we see parents relapse. We put a lot of hope in our parents to do the task, but we put a lot of responsibility on them as well, and it is an uphill battle. At some point, though, the child's permanency outweighs the parent's interest to parent, and that's kind of where it's just such a tough decision. So that's why there's so many people that are involved. With case managers have an incredible load, which is why there's a lot of turnover. They see a lot of things that are very ugly, and there's a lot of things that they go through. So it's kind of just a product of the system. I would say if we probably put more resources into it, that would be good, but I'm not here to legislate, but yeah, that's part of I hear and I have the same frustrations as well, like with the system, but certainly there is a great impact. Our volunteers and as the caregivers mentioned here, like certainly they make a huge impact as well.
Well, I wanted to add that my next door neighbor, Jennifer Sturck, created the organization called ECHO. And they always want volunteers, like to help sort and to help like with their distribution center. They're always looking for people and for donations. So people like wanted to donate. They always need like supplies. So I think that would be, I could send you the link to how.
Yeah, that'd be great actually if you would do that.
Sure.
Something else, Angela, I wanted to throw out is that recently, I want to say it was like the last maybe 2 to 3 years, Heartland started a program called Foster Friends. So for people that might be interested in fostering but aren't ready to jump right in there,
right?
They can become foster friends. So they get background checks. They go through very minimal training. But then there are people that foster parents can call on and say, hey, I have to go out of town this weekend. Can you watch my kids for me? Or, you know, we need a date night. Could you give us some help with that? Or, you know, sometimes too, they're even willing to, like, if the children need some supplies, some of them are willing to go out and purchase things for kids. So that's another program too that you might want to throw out there. People that maybe are interested but aren't really sure yet, they can go through that process, maybe get their feet a little wet, and then that would maybe give them an idea of, yeah, I can go through with this and we can foster, or no, fostering is not for us. We'll just stay as foster friends and help any way we can.
That's fantastic. I didn't know about that. That's great.
Yeah, it was something that they just started, I want to say like 2 to 3 years ago. It hasn't been going for long.
If you're interested in becoming a guardian at Litem, there will be information in the chat on both Facebook and YouTube. Also information for fostering and adopting if that interests you. Right now with the Guardian at Litem training, it is all virtual, so you would be able to do that via Zoom or some other format. So if you have any other questions, you can email me at Waddell@oasischurch.org, and we have lots actually more Oasians who are guardian ad litems, who foster and who have adopted. So if it is something you're interested in, please either leave us a chat or email me, because we can get you connected with people who you can start the training, or if you just want to talk to one of our Oasis family about their experience, then I'm sure they would be willing to do that as well. So thank you all so much for joining me, and thank you, Oasis.